It's Independence Day, but how much freedom do Americans really still have? What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line for Sunday, July the 2nd. And of course, this is the true Independence Day, which the deal was struck to form the Constitution, the independence from England. And of course, it was actually taken care of on July 4th, which has become the holiday, but it is our actual independence, July 2nd. And the question is how much freedom do we actually have left? How much are we dealing with when we have a total system of breakdown? You know, when you look at the political system, you have nothing but a breakdown. I don't care if you're a Republican or you're a Democrat. You have a bunch of criminals that are taking away our freedom one piece at a time. They are confiscating our money through taxes, whether they be actual taxes or taxes through inflation, which is actually taxation without representation. The exact same thing we went to war for 247 years ago. And we do know that we are seeing a very, very sad period in American history as we allow this country to fall apart and not be the representation and the representative of what true freedom and democracy is all about. You could make the case that we're almost under martial law and not running a true democracy anymore. And you can all say I'm full of crap, and you can say I'm worried about nothing, but that this is how the problems continue, and this is how they are allowed to happen when you have a government that is totally broken down on both sides of the aisle, because both sides of the aisle are not concerned about you, the American citizen, but about how they can line their own pockets with our money and continue to make bad, horrific deals around the globe, allowing themselves to get paid off while we sit here and pay the bill to overpay them, to continue to keep them in office. And of course, if you go back to how this country was started, of course, we know that we weren't in the technological age we are now. But of course, farmers started this country. And of course, that was our main source. And of course, we know that the food supply is one of the most important things. And unfortunately, we are letting China take over our land quietly as they continue to consume the ability of our food supply. And don't kid yourself and think that this is not happening. Don't kid yourself that Bill Gates is not trying to accumulate all the farmland as well. Don't kid yourself that Smithfield Foods, which is owned by China, one of the largest hog producers in the world, okay, that they are not trying to take control through the back door, which perfectly fits their 100-year plan. And of course, with the help of President Biden, we are seeing their 100-year plan accelerate as we continue to see the stealing of the freedom of Americans, the continued attempt to block history and make changes that make no sense unless, of course, you're trying to grab all the cash. And of course, you can see the America becoming more of a socialistic nation or a communistic nation as we watch freedom of speech disappear, and you listen to a sad press crew that is really horrendous. I mean, the journalism in this country has totally fallen off and has become one side or the other instead of actual what are the facts, letting Americans make the decision. From the illegal immigration that is not part of this country, okay, to the funding, okay, and for people not to go to work and getting paid not to do so. I think when you look at the government spending, and again, this goes back forever, okay, it is nothing more than fleecing the American people and taking away freedoms of this country. Now you can say as you wish, but at the end of the day, finally, the Supreme Court struck down, which we said was going to happen when it first was announced that President Biden was going to waive the delinquency and the loans that students owned. And again, if you're going to go to school and you borrow money, then you should expect to pay it back. This is not a charity organization. America was built on capitalism and by hard work and the competitive spirit to build the next best thing, to have the ability to make the money of a Jeffrey Bezos or a Warren Buffett or an Elon Musk or any of the other famous billionaires throughout history, Steve Jobs. Okay, but yet we have the continued trying to dumb down America through our lousy school system, okay, which is one of the worst of any major nation. We're not teaching people how to be in business. We're not teaching people how to have some common sense. We're teaching them about trans and about other things that should not be taught in schools at very young ages. We should be teaching kids common sense and how to survive in this world, and not how to worry about things that have no meaning to the general Constitution and what America is all about. So as we look at this martial law disguised as a democracy, and watch, Biden going out trying to go around what the Supreme Court ruled on the loans and other things, I think it's an interesting dichotomy as we watch how the politicians don't feel that the laws are meant for them. Okay, so as we watch, President Biden take a victory lap on how he's destroyed the American economy, and make no mistake, he has single-handedly taken this country and turned it into a very poor nation in whole, and allowed the rich to get very rich. And I think as you look back to that press dinner when AOC wore the dress, let's tax the rich. Well, isn't it amazing how the rich have gotten much richer and the middle class has declined from 62% to 44%. And of course, we see struggles abound everywhere as we continue to see them brag about how good the economy is. As you look at the leaders that we have to worry about, McConnell, McCarthy, Pelosi, who's leaving, and of course, Biden and the rest, they're not Americans. They're thieves that are taking away not only your freedom but your money. All right, and of course we have Chair Jerome Powell, okay, who is trying to navigate a soft landing. And again, this goes back to the freedom of free markets and asset classes being able to price themselves, because price discovery will always win out. And I think that when you allow manipulation of money to create prices that are not accurate or not really representative of what we are, I think that is another sign. And of course, we know that the Federal Reserve is more or less a cartel that was built by four of the worst people ever, with the Rothschild family, Paul Warburg, J.P. Morgan, and the Rockefellers, who have no interest in the middle class of America. Okay, they have interest in destroying the middle class and turning us back into serfs. And I think that when we look at the picture, okay, we see that things are not going well. We have had the largest discrepancy between gross domestic product and gross domestic income in the last 30 years. Okay, and of course, as we look back to 20 years ago, that was around the time of the Great Collapse. And as we look back into the 90s, the Great Collapse, which was engineered by, of course, another great Fed chair, Alan Greenspan, who was made out to be the genius, but it was nothing more than one of the greatest bubble builders in history. So it is very sad that as we approach the July 4th holiday, and realize what our ancestors did. They did not bargain for what we have today. They did not put their lives on the line to build this. Okay, and I think that, when you look at the emergency bailouts, I will ask the question I've asked many times: why are the American people being stuck to bail out failing banks? Okay, where is it written that we as Americans and our tax dollars should go to bail out failing businesses? I don't believe that that is the way it was meant to be, and I don't believe it's the way it should be, and I don't believe that we should have politicians that should have a career as a politician. If we go back to the origination of the Constitution and we go back to how America first started, the farmers took their turns in taking office and then going back to work on their farm. They were not there to make a living nor scam or steal from the American people. They were there to build a nation, and at one time, the greatest nation. And although we still may be the top, our progression has been backwards to catch the back of the pack instead of continuing to be the leaders in the world and push forward. We, as Americans, could be self-sufficient. We have helped the world, but don't really have to if we choose not to. And if you would ask my opinion, and you're not asking it, but I'm going to give it to you, okay? The way things are today, I think that we should go back to the island that we were and skip what's going on with the rest of the globe, because the rest of the globe is out to destroy the United States of America, Saudi Arabia, China, Russia, and the rest. And of course, I believe that we are the smartest, the greatest, and have the best opportunity of survival and to break the trend of great major empires breaking down between 200 and 300 years. This is Independence Day, and let's remain and get back our independence and quit going for the bullshit that's dealt out to us. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Todd Bubba Horwitz. It is Tuesday. It is Sunday, July 2nd. And we're going to step out here for a break, and we'll be back with more in our market report right after the break. Well, kids, what's up? And happy Independence Day weekend. And of course, obviously, thanks to all of our great military that has helped us get to this point. And of course, as you know, we have sponsors who sponsor the show. And, again, everybody here I give you as I've vetted myself or used myself. And of course, they're brokers. And I have other brokers, but I do prefer for futures and commodities that it'd be Capital Trading Group, CTG. And of course, they're the best in the business. They've got the greatest service. They take care of you. And of course, they do a great job. And our partners on a couple of products. Check them out, info.capitaltradinggroup.com/Bubba. And of course, our equity and options partner is Tradier Brokerage. And Tradier, listen, $10 a month saves me $100,000 a year in commission. We can automate your portfolio at no cost. You can lease our hedging software if you choose to hedge your portfolio. And Tradier is $10 a month no matter what. Your fees are for membership to us. And hey, listen, if you want to throw an extra few grand a year away, that's up to you. But I would check out Tradier. It's try.tradier.com/Bubba, and both are scrolling on the sides on their websites. And of course, our high school program, which is unfortunately failing at this time because we can't have teachers that want to teach because unfortunately they don't want to get off their ass and go to work. In the meantime, this is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz. Let's get back to our market report right now. Welcome back. It is Bubba's Bottom Line. It is Todd Bubba Horwitz. And of course, as we look at every week, we look at the markets. And of course, now we can actually look at a 6-month recap as we just finished the second quarter with a bang. And as we look at the markets this year, wow, what a year. Shocking to everybody, I'm sure. I don't know who would have expected that the NASDAQ would have rallied 37%. The S&P would have rallied almost 16%, the Dow 4%, and the Russell 5%. So it's been quite the rally, and the real question is, will it be able to sustain itself? And look, I'm not going to say it can't. I think that there's a lot of problems in the economy. I think the inflation numbers are bullshit. I think that we get lied to on a regular basis. But again, if you fight the market, you're fighting a losing battle. And the truth of the matter is, if you fight, you should really go have your head examined, because the trend is the trend. And until that changes, there's no reason to fight it. So as we look at the four major indices, they were all higher for the week. And of course, we are still long and have been long for quite a while, showing you that even though my opinion is that this market's going to break down, I'm not fighting it, I'm playing with it. And of course, the dollar continues, and I'm not going to say under pressure, just pretty stable, pretty sideways. And again, when you look at currencies in general, they're the most manipulated, fraudulent market in the world, because there is no asset backing it. You got a bunch of criminal central bankers around the globe manipulating to create new money out of air. In the meantime, we don't trade the dollars anymore. We would be short if we did. The euro currency at an up week, and we are long it, and we would continue to be long. Bitcoin, which I do believe is a real currency at some point. Right now, it's a commodity that is have high risk, but I do believe it will survive. But we are still long at it. It is over that 30,000 threshold, which we've been watching for. Bonds and notes got hammered for the week, and of course that just tells us that interest rates are going higher. And if Chair Powell can try to initiate that soft landing all he wants, this ain't going to be soft. This is going to be a big thud when it finally happens. And I can't tell you when that's going to be, but it's going to be a big thud. But we are still short the bonds and notes. The metals, again, interesting. Gold did come down to just 1,900 and bounced pretty good. But we're still short. I mean, it's well off, along with silver and platinum. Now, we don't trade platinum, but of course, it's not liquid enough, but we would be short that as well. But again, I think that when you look at the precious metals, I do think that they're going to be big. And I do think that gold will make a new high this year. But again, the trend for now is still lower. Copper markets, we just reversed to short. And I think that, look, I don't know why copper is doing anything. I think it should be going down when I look at the overall economy. But it is what it is, and that's our position. And natural gas is higher. And as you look out in the curve, it continues to get higher. And I think we're going to see a pretty big move. And crude oil, which is still pretty much flat and we're still short it, is still in that swing area going back and forth. But if you look out in the curve, you'll see that it's much higher. And I think that, the weakness of the economy is why we're here. But expect Saudi Arabia to make another cut, because they're not going to tolerate, they need to make more profits. They don't make enough money now. For their $10 barrel oil, it probably costs them for production. They're gonna cut once again. You can bet on it, as we've been saying here. They've cut twice since we started talking about it. The grain markets, boy, did they get ripped on Friday. They look weak. I think that's more of a sign to the economy than it is to anything else. But we're short them across the board. Soybeans ran big with some information, and wheat and corn got clobbered. As it looked like we're just about to turn the corner and start to head up. And I think this is a problem that is being created. And of course, small farmers are struggling because the cost of input to produce is more than the cost that they're going to collect. So it's very interesting. The meats, the proteins, cattle remains relatively strong. And again, that's more based on a shortage than it is on an actual true demand. But again, it doesn't matter why they're higher, they're higher. We would be long them. We no longer trade them, but we would be long. But I would be looking for a spot probably to get short here. I think now is the time. If you're going to take a risk, it's probably worth the risk. Hogs, again, are rallying, and I would think the rally in hogs has probably got another couple of weeks to go because of course, as we go out into the farther into the future, you can see by the pricing that the price of hogs starts to come down. In the softs, cocoa, we're still long. It was higher. Sugar was lower. We're still short. Coffee, we're short. It was lower. OJ was short. We're short, and it was still lower. And of course, cotton continues to struggle. And again, this is kind of the commodities picture. So there's things that don't look great. In the meantime, look, I'm not going to tell you the markets are not going to go up again. But I would tend to think that if the highs are not in, we're very close to the highest of the year. Whether or not we're going to fall apart, that I cannot say. But it wouldn't surprise me to see sidewards to downward action coming the second half of the year. But again, we're not going to predict. We're going to continue to trade the overall trend. In the meantime, again, just remember that the numbers we get reported are garbage, but the overall ability to put your money in a place, and makes it even more interesting that people are not taking the 5.5% in CDs, willing to take the greed and continue to take on the market. So we'll see what happens. This is Bubba's Bottom Line. Top Bubba Horwitz. Let's step up for our final break and come back with, of course, my commentary right after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. What up, kids? Well, again, I'm not going to go through the whole spiel, but I will remind you, our partners, and I do have other brokers, but Trade Your Brokerage, scrolling on the side for the website, Capital Trading Group, also scrolling on the side, in our high school investing or high school program to educate our people on the bottom. So check them out. And of course, let's get back to Bubba's Bottom Line and my commentary. Welcome back. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Todd Bubba Horwitz, on July the 2nd, the actual Independence Day. But of course, we celebrate on July 4th. And, I'll tell you, you may hear me bitch and moan here, but it is really bitching and moaning for the benefit of my fellow Americans. I love this country. I feel bad for the younger generations. I feel bad for my children, the potential of my grandchildren, which I don't have yet. But many of you do have children and grandchildren, and I think it is a shame at the destruction that we are allowing to happen to this country. This is my home, and I could think of no better place to be, but it is becoming rather sad when I look at the homeless, when I look at the politicians, with armed security while clamoring to defund our police. I think we've gone through a very rough period over the last few years, and I don't think if we don't get our act together, we will become a communistic state. And I think that is a shame. And I think it's sad that we should even be at this point when we are by far the strongest nation in the world. We should take back the power that we have. We should take back our independence and quit giving away all of our resources to our enemies and quit getting our politicians paid off by those same enemies. I think this is a horrible situation we are watching develop. And again, whether you be a Republican or a Democrat, I don't really care. At the end of the day, we are Americans first. And either you decide that you're going to step up for America, or you're going to collapse and let China take over the United States of America. That is really a choice that we can make before it's too late, because it is never too late to fight. It is never too late to take charge. But one of the things you have to do is get your dead ass off the couch and get a job and quit banking on government benefits. This is Bubba's Bottom Line, Top Bubba Horwitz. I hope you all have a great 4th of July. And remember to salute a soldier, to thank him. And, we're here because our ancestors fought for it. And I assure you, they did not fight for what's going on today. Bubba's Bottom Line, Top Bubba Horwitz. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you back here with Bubba's Daily Update on Wednesday, July the 5th.